happy Sunday and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a very special video today. So I have been waiting to be able to share this with you guys, and I am beyond excited to be able to finally post this video and show you what I've been working on. We are going to be doing a two-part video, and this is the first part. And in this video, I have renovated our guest room, which was a guest bedroom, kind of just like a catch-all space for extra clothing, wood storage, camping gear, just anything that we didn't have a spot for went into that room. It was a hot mess. It just really wasn't doing anything special for us. It wasn't serving a great purpose, and it did not look nice. It really didn't fit the vibe of the house. The colors were not colors that I would have chosen, and it was a long time coming that this room got updated. I am so excited to show you the things that I did in this room, the way that it changed, and the final result. I think it turned out gorgeous. I couldn't be happier with the space. And yeah, I'm just really happy to be able to finally show you guys this and talk about it. We went ahead and turned the guest room in our house into a DIY studio for me. So now I'm going to have a space that is dedicated for us to build and create and work in. It's just perfect. It's completely my vibe. It's 100% my vision. And I wanted to go with a very vintage European kind of feel. I wanted to kind of lean into that French countryside sort of look. Some of the things that we're doing in that space are going to be updating the color of the walls. We're going to be doing some wainscoting on the walls, which is like box trim. We're completely changing the furniture in the room and building a cabinet from scratch. So it is a completely different space. I'll put some pictures on the screen of some of the design inspiration for going into this room and how I kind of started to plan what I wanted this space to look like. I found almost all of the furniture on Facebook Marketplace, which I was super happy about because it made the room way more budget friendly. I'll show you a picture of the room as it is now before we've begun. And I'll just warn you, it's a mess. There's stuff all over the room. The feeling of the room does not match the feeling of my house. It's just not where it needed to be. That room really kind of just fell to the wayside. We're gonna give it a new life. I'm super excited for you guys to see this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see more videos like this every single Sunday. We are gonna have a part 2 to this video out next Sunday, where we will be adding a lot of the decor and design elements and building the cabinet that's going in that space. So you don't want to miss it. It's really going to finish out the room, and you're going to get to see how special the space is that we will get to work in together. Let's get started renovating this room. Guys, so we have the room all prepped and ready to go. I've moved out as much furniture as I can. So we already sold the bed. We got rid of the rug that was in here and the painting that was on this wall. I have some furniture moved out of the room, and then what I didn't have space for in another room, I just kind of pushed to the center of the room, and that way we can paint around it. So it is messy in here right now, but it always looks worse before it looks better. So this is just a part of the process. I have everything taped off in the room. I also went ahead and chipped off some of the old peeling paint on the windowsills because this house is quite old. So the paint that was on the windowsills was just starting to peel and flake from time, so that when we lay down new paint, it sits nicely and it doesn't peel with the old paint. For this first step of the process, we are going to be using a paint that I already have. We painted our back living room with this. We have 2 living rooms in our house, and we painted the back living room this color, and it's like a gray with blue undertones, and there is quite a lot of it left. We have it right here, this large tin, and so I'm gonna use that because paint only lasts so long, and so I'd rather use it in this space and not have to buy more paint and not have it go to waste. What I've decided that we're gonna do in this space is paint all of the walls this gray color, and I also want to paint the window frames the same color as well as the doors, and then we're going to be able to mark out for the wainscoting and go and get the trim at the hardware store. Alright guys, so now that we have the walls all painted, you can see we have this really pretty gray blue color. The next thing that we're going to do is we have to head to the hardware store to get the trim that we're going to use for the box trim or the wainscoting on the walls. So I looked online beforehand to see the different styles of trims and different thicknesses that are available. I picked one out that I think will work really well for the room. So the trim that I'm using is about like an inch in width. The part that you'll see facing you is going to be about an inch thick, and then it's like a 1/4 inch raised off the wall. So it's a pretty thin trim, but I think that it will give us enough detail to draw the eye and make a huge impact in the room without being overwhelming. So for this room, I want to keep the boxes pretty simple and really let the focus be on the texture and bringing in that vintage European kind of feel to the space without getting too ornate. So we're going to head to the hardware store and pick up some trim. I have estimated out about how much trim we will need, and I think that we're going to need around like 25 pieces of trim to do this entire room, doing multiple boxes on each wall, and I'll show you a picture of what I mean by that and kind of my rough sketch of what the walls will look like. So it does require a little bit more trim because I'm doing more boxes instead of just one big box, but I think it's going to be worth it. The plan is to do all of the walls in this room except for this wall. This one's going to stay plain, and that's because this is where we're going to be building the cabinet in the second half of this renovation. So next week on Sunday, you'll see the cabinet being built in the second half of this. So now that we have all the trim that we need, I'm going to go ahead and start measuring out the trim for the different boxes in the room and marking it with 45-degree angles. So before we went to the hardware store, I already measured all of the boxes on the walls and kind of gave myself lengths and widths for every box that would be going onto the wall. And what I want to do is line the top of the boxes up with the big structures in this room, if that makes sense. So like the tops of windows, tops of door frames. So that way it's like one consistent line for your eye to follow instead of kind of going up and down all around the room. So that helped me to really kind of plan out how big each box would be, because I knew where it needed to start and end to match those focal points in the room. So if you are going to try and do some wainscoting or do any kind of box trim in your house, which by the way, those words are interchangeable. So if you hear me saying both, that's why. It's just whichever you're familiar with, but they mean the same thing. It's putting like a picture frame on your wall. So if you're going to give that a try and do what I'm doing, my biggest suggestion to you would be making sure that you have one consistent line around the room, that all of your lines match up so that you don't have uneven boxes, because that will be really difficult for your eye to process when you walk in the room, and it's going to be distracting. So those are kind of the main things that you need to really nail down when you're doing wainscoting. And if you're really uncomfortable, they make pre-made boxes that you can buy and put it up on the wall. I'm choosing to do it myself because it's less expensive to measure and cut trim yourself and put it on the wall instead of buying the boxes pre-made, but you can totally do that if you want to. Now that we have the trim and we have everything marked out on the walls, what I'm going to do is measure all of my measurements and mark them at a 45-degree angle. So this is going to make it so that when I go outside to cut the wood, it's all going to be marked and ready to go and super easy to cut. Make sure that when you are marking your 45-degree angles, you're alternating angles for the sides. So like if you're looking at these two sides of a shape, that and L, because it's going to be a rectangle, you want to make sure that these two angles that are being cut are opposite 45 degrees so that they sit into each other. A really good way to think about that, and what I do when I first start off, is to take a literal picture frame in my house and look at the corner and set it in front of me so that I can match it up with the angle that I'm drawing and not confuse myself, because it is really easy to get confused when you first start making those marks, but once you get started, it just kind of flows really easy and quick. We're going to go ahead and mark everything out and then get it all cut so we can put it on the wall.
Alright guys, so we now have all of the trim cut for the room. I did recruit my husband to help with this project because it ended up being a lot bigger of an undertaking than I originally thought it would be. Just something to note if you want to do wainscoting in your home and you want to kind of follow this to replicate in your house, it's totally doable. It's not a difficult process, but it does take a lot of time. We've been going at this for a couple of days. I just recruited him in the last day to help me with the cutting so that I could measure while he cuts or vice versa. And that really has sped up the process a lot. So if you have someone to help you, I highly recommend that you get them to do that. Something that my husband got me, which I had seen on like TikToks with contractors using it, but had never seen someone on like a YouTube renovation or something like that use this before. I'm sure they have, just none of the ones that I watch have used it. But it is this thing right here. And I'll put the name of it on the screen because I don't remember exactly what it's called. Basically what this does, it has a little thread right here. And you pull it out like this, and you can wind it back into place. You have this little pocket on the side of it that you open up, and you pour this blue powder into it, and it coats the thread that's inside. And there are different kinds of powder that you can get. So I got the lowest level of the powder, which means that it will wipe off with a wet cloth. But something to be aware of if you're going to try this is that if you get the higher numbers, they become more permanent the higher the number is. So you want to go with a 0 or a 1 out of, I think, 5, because those will wipe off and you don't want a permanent line on your wall. But this is super cool if you're going to do something like this or something where you need straight lines on your wall, because what you do is you take this little thread out and you either have someone hold it or you put like a little tacking nail in your wall, and it holds this at the bottom, and then you hold or nail this big part at the top, and then you can pull the thread and it pulls back and leaves a perfectly straight blue line on your wall. So you can see it right here where I did it, and it left a perfectly straight line, so you don't have to measure all up and down your wall, which saves me a ton of time in this process. So I'll leave the name on the screen for you guys, but if you're gonna do something like this, or even for like hanging pictures where it has 2 hooks, this is super, super helpful and very easy to use. Another tool that we got, and I'm just sharing this with you guys in case you want to do wainscoting in your house so that you know what's worked for me, because we don't have a brad nailer. It's something that I want to get but just haven't gotten. So we're doing the nailing by hand. If you're like us and you don't have a brad nailer, don't want to invest in it, or can't invest in it right now because they can be pretty expensive, what you can do is get some little tools like this, which are way less expensive than a brad nailer, which can be a couple $100s. But we got this little flathead hammer, which is really good for getting into like the little nooks and crannies of the trim. The other thing that's proven really helpful is this little set of these guys right here. I don't remember what they're called. Again, I'll put them on the screen. These are new tools to me, so I don't remember the names. Basically, they're kind of like little picks. They have like little indents in the heads up here, and there's different sizes. And so what these do is you can put this on the head of the nail and tap it in like this. On the back, you tap it in so that when it's somewhere that's hard to reach with a hammer, this will get the nail all the way in without you having to be able to fit your hammer in. So this has also been very helpful. Very exciting. We are almost there. I'm going to continue to tape and attach all of the trim onto the wall, and then I'll check back in with you guys when I'm caulking the edges, and that'll dry in like 20 minutes, and then we'll be able to paint everything and it'll be ready to move in furniture. Alright guys, so we got all of the wainscoting on the walls. It was a little bit of a chore, but honestly not too bad, just really kind of time consuming was the bigger thing. The actual task itself wasn't very complicated or difficult to do. It just took a long time. So we knocked it out over a few days. I did it for the first few days by myself. And then once I got everything taped up on the wall, I had my husband come in and help me so that we could both be nailing the trim to the wall and it would take less time. Everything is nailed to the wall, all the seams are caulked, all of it is painted, and it is now good for us to start putting furniture in and hanging pictures and all that kind of fun stuff that I've been dying to get to. It's later right now in the evening, so I'm not going to do a ton right now, but I am going to move a little bit of this furniture off to where it's going to be positioned. That way I can move some of the bigger furniture that I got on Facebook Marketplace into this room tomorrow. Most of the furniture that's in here right now is going to stay in here. The only thing that is going to be going at some point is the dresser that we have, because the next step that I'm going to do after I get the furniture situated in here is measure and build a large built-in style cabinet for this wall here, which is why it's the only wall that doesn't have wainscoting on it, because you won't see it. So I'm not going to bother to put wainscoting when it's going to be covered up by a cabinet. So we're going to put this bookshelf against the wall, and then we'll kind of move some furniture around. Mirror hanging here before, and I want to put it back in the space because the desk that was under it is going to go back in this space as well, so it'll kind of be the same layout for this little section. So I'm hoping that it'll fit really nicely inside the wainscoting and we won't have any issues with it, you know, sitting on top of it or anything like that. So I'm going to move the dresser over here, and obviously this isn't going to stay here. It honestly doesn't even have enough room for our clothes at the moment, so we need something larger. But we do need to keep it here until I build this cabinet because we need something to hold our clothes. So I'm going to put it up against this wall where the cabinet's going to go, and then once I have it built, I can sell the dresser and move it out. Okay, so I want to go ahead and lay the rug out. So this is the rug pad that's going to go under it, and it helps to like hold it in place too. I'm going to go grab the rug. Okay, so before I move any more furniture in, I want to put the curtains up so that the furniture isn't blocking my access to being able to get up on a ladder and put the curtains up. Then I will bring the remaining furniture in, and then we can decorate and hang some pictures. That way we know where the furniture will be and it won't block any of the pictures that we're going to be hanging. So I got some curtains for in here. Previously in this room, we had those like blue and yellow striped curtains that came with the house. The previous owners left them here, and they served their purpose for, you know, when I first moved into this house and I was much younger and couldn't afford to remodel and, you know, redecorate the house. But now I want to kind of upgrade them and have something that is more my style and looks nicer in the space. So I'm going to use the curtain rods and hooks and everything that were in here previously. I do like those. They're just like a regular black curtain rod that adjusts. And the ones up here are the ones that the previous owners had left here. So I like those. I think they're nice. I put them back up and we're going to keep those. And I also like that the hooks up here have two hook parts to them. So I can do a double tiered curtain, which is exactly what I wanted to do in this space anyways. So it works out really nicely. We're going to use the rods that we already had and the hooks and everything. Now I'm going to use these little black metal clips. These are the same ones that we used in the bathroom renovation, and they came in a really large pack. And I bought a large pack knowing that I was probably going to want to use them in here as well. We're going to clip our curtains onto the curtain rod before we put them up. I want to show you the curtains that I got though, so that you can see kind of like the vision of where we're going. We have 2 curtains that we're going to be putting in. They're going to be layered. I bought 1 set of each of them because they are wider curtains, so they'll be able to cover this entire window just with 1 curtain. I didn't want to have it on both sides. I thought it would look nice having it kind of offset like that, and so I thought I could either layer them both on one side or put 1 curtain on one side, 1 on the other. We can kind of play with it and see. I got 1 set of each of these. I got this sheer mesh white curtain to go in the back. I have these in our sunroom and I really like them. They're super inexpensive on Amazon. Quality is really nice. And then I got these green velvet curtains to go in the front. So these are super pretty because depending on the lighting that we're getting in this room, they can look a little bit darker or like this kind of olivey color. Alright, so this is 1 set of curtains all done. I think it looks really pretty. I tried putting them on opposite sides and I didn't really love that as much. I felt like it looked off balance. Really, really like how it looks with the sheer peeking out from behind the green curtain. And I think the green goes really nicely with the color of the room as well. I think it kind of really leans into that vintage feel and kind of like that classic European style. So I'm really loving how this turned out. I also think it's nice that, you know, I'm gonna put my desk right here. So I think it's nice that I could close this sheer one if I'm working here and I don't want people walking down the street looking at me or something, or I just want, you know, a little bit more privacy. I can close the sheer one and still be able to see outside and get the daylight and all that kind of stuff without having like a direct line of sight from me to the sidewalk. All right, so we just tried to get the desk in and it's not gonna fit because of the door right here. This spot is blocking it. So we've tried a bunch of different angles and our options are now to take the legs off the desk or door off the hinges. So I think we're gonna take the door off the hinges because the legs on the desk, it's a vintage desk, so the bolts are super big and like really far into the desk, so it would probably be harder to take the legs off the desk. So door's coming off and then we're gonna try and get it in again. The fun part of having a super old house, really narrow doorways and every door is a different size.
Oh, we're doing the angle thing.
This is what it looks like.
This is like...
What are you doing? It's like a therapist office.
Tell me about you.
Okay, so should we try at 90? I knew this was going to be a large chair, but
How does that make you feel?
okay, I'm going to put this in the video. So let's try it at 90.
right, guys, well, that wraps up our video for this week. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you love the space as much as I do. I am beyond happy with how it turned out. I think that it is just 100% my vision for the space come to life, and I feel super proud of it. I feel really accomplished to be able to make it look the way that I wanted it to look all on my own, you know, just with my skills, doing things that I've never done before, and kind of pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. And so I hope that it inspires you to do something that challenges you too, that excites you, that is new and fun. And I think that's the best space for you to be able to learn and grow as a creator, as a person. It's just such a cool thing to do. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to tune in next week on Sunday for the second half of this video so you can see the final look of the room and get to see what our DIY studio space is going to look like, because you guys are going to be spending a lot of time in that space with me as we build and create new projects. So I really kind of think of it as our space. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see more of my videos. It really helps the channel and it helps me to be able to get my content out to you all. And I'll see you all next Sunday for the second half of our renovation.